Good morning. This is Julie Finkelstein and Wendy Bushu, and we're here to share our discussion and reading on this book by Patty Dobrowolsi, Drawing Solutions. It connects the visions with actions. And today we're going to be on page 83 on selective sharing, and Wendy will start reading. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome. Selective sharing. When you embark on major change, perhaps with little more than a shoestring of a budget and a map of a dream, you are also the most vulnerable to the opinions of others. I previously cautioned you about sharing your snapshot map and vision and want to reiterate that it takes selective sharing to find positive, reassuring support for your journey. Here is how I learned discretion. When I wanted to shift my career from being a therapist to working with businesses, I made the mistake of mentioning it to my neighbor, who was also my landlord. She was a person who had been doing the same job of teaching for her entire career. She took one look at my map and went into a tailspin. How do you know that you'll be good in consulting? Do you have enough savings to tide you over? And so forth. Despite having successfully changed careers before, I suddenly found myself doubting my abilities, and I stalled out for about 3 months. Gradually, I realized her reaction stemmed from her own fear that I would be unable to pay rent. It was not an accurate assessment of my capacity for successful change. By understanding that and spending time with people who are excited and positive about making changes, I got back on track. Change brings out the best and worst in us all. Stay true to yourself and avoid anyone who may try to dump a truckload of fear or negativity on your brilliant plan. How to mitigate negativity. If you are faced with negativity, try these strategies. 1. Consider the source. Does this person feel trapped in some aspect of their life, unhappy with their job, home, relationships, family? Keep your distance from what they are saying to you. Remember, their negative reaction is a reflection of them, not you. It tells you what kind of person they are and what issues they may be dealing with. It's not a reflection of you or your plan. 2. Remain detached. Most people want you to engage in a dialogue with them. One of my longtime friends absolutely loves to poke holes in anything. She's not a negative person, she just wants to understand things better. Her style can feel like an attack. As a result, whenever I have an idea I want to protect, I have found it best not to engage in debate about its validity, but rather to let her wind down her questioning before I clarify my point of view. Pretend you are sitting across from yourself and watching your own reactions as someone responds to or critiques your ideas. Note what surfaces without getting caught up in the emotions. When your emotions are running the show, tend to be reactive rather than proactive. Stay calm. 3. Find the truth in the comment. If you have a knee-jerk, no, that's not it reaction, you can be sure there is a nugget of truth there. One response is to simply take note of it rather than defending your position. You don't have to unravel it right then, excuse me, even if they want you to. Ask them to say more about what they are thinking or feeling. Clarify their comments. See if you can find a clue about what triggered your response. Later, you can go back and examine the comment to determine the truth within it. Imagine that, like an image or symbol you received in a dream, the comment contains a gift. 4. Remain positive. Studies show that you can influence and be influenced by those around you. However, if your energy remains steadfastly positive, it will override any negativity that comes your way. In the early 90s, I worked as an artist in residence in San Bruno County Jail. After my first day working there, I became very sick as soon as I got home. I'm normally a very healthy person, so I was shocked at the severity of my illness. As I suffered through that long night of fever, I realized that the negativity of consciousness inside the jail was immense. I wasn't prepared for the intensity of that energy. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I recovered the next day, but from then on, whenever I arrived at the jail, I would encase myself in a thick bubble of protection as I waited to pass through security. I visualized a membrane of protection that allowed my energy to flow out so I could work effectively, but would block any negative influences coming my way. The jail's negativity never influenced me again. Raise your own positive energy so you are filtering out anything that might deplete you. Wait, hold on. Working through your resentment to change. Nobody likes being forced to change. Before you begin to shift yourself into taking your next step, you will have to deal with your reactions. Here's a simple technique that will help you sort out and understand them. Okay, I'll stop here.
Exercise, reactions, and drivers. At the top of a piece of paper, write an issue that prompted strong feelings of resentment in you. It may even be when you lost your job, or your relationship ended, or your house was in foreclosure, or it may be your reaction to one of your bold steps. Draw a line down the center of the page. On the one side, write the word reactions. On the other side, write drivers. Now write and draw your reaction to what happened to you. Ask yourself, what am I experiencing? What am I feeling, thinking, and seeing around me? In the other column, write and draw the drivers behind what you are feeling. What is driving it? Am I mad? Why? Did they tell me what was going to happen? Did my relationships end abruptly? Am I sad? Why? Draw a picture of it. Write a quote that expresses the essence of how you're feeling. I thought we were making progress in our relationship, and now I am really disappointed. After a few minutes, look at what you have written and drawn. The goal is neither to interpret nor clarify, but simply to make sure you have captured what you're thinking and feeling. Then find someone to talk about what happened. Just saying it out loud gives voice to everything you have secretly been thinking and feeling in isolation. If you cannot find someone to tell your story to, then write about it. Write about what you see on your page. The hardest place to be is on your own in the middle of a change. It isn't unusual to feel victimized and distressed. By bringing your feelings into the light of day, you help yourself process and gain distance from your emotions. According to David Rock, another way to help yourself work through your reactions once you have acknowledged what you are feeling is to reframe or reappraise what has happened. There are 4 types of reappraisals. 1. Reinterpretation. 2. Normalizing. 3. Reordering. 4. Repositioning. Reinterpretation. You decide that what you once thought of as a threat is no longer threatening. For example, consultants are reviewing the structure of how things get done where you work. At first, you think you might lose your job and you're filled with panic. You read the memo again, realize the processes they're examining are not within your department. Your anxiety goes down. 2. Normalizing. You look over your action steps list and realize changes you are facing makes you feel scared and anxious. You remind yourself that this is a typical reaction of what you are experiencing. 3. Reordering. You liked meeting new people at the job you had, and now you're being moved into a position where you will have a better title, but less interaction with others. Your brain has placed being with others at the top of the list of things that bring you satisfaction. You take a moment to list the advantages of your new level. Now you actually have the ability to improve how things are done. This helps your brain reorder your priorities and help calm you down. Repositioning. You take the position of someone else to expand your view of what is happening. Look through their eyes. How would my partner view this change? How is my boss viewing this change? This may be the hardest reappraising technique. Any of these suggestions will help you to create order during the chaos and set you up for more success moving forward. You can't hide your feelings or reactions. You have to clear the stuff you're holding inside. That negative debris will interfere with your ability to adapt and find creative solutions. It must shift to make room for something new. Writing and drawing about it or using any of the reappraisal techniques gives you distance from your experience. This helps you shift from denial and resistance into exploration, where your natural curiosity about the future gets you creative and excited about how to ride out the changes. What do you think? Should I continue reading or stop?
Go ahead.
Okay. One more section then. It's a bit long, but I'm game. Maybe you like to read some of it, so I'll stop like after a page and a half, and then maybe you can read the rest. Is that okay, Wendy?
Right.
Okay, I'll get started. Fear is one of the main reasons people don't change. Just the thought of switching jobs, ending in a relationship, moving to a new place, or doing things differently can keep us rooted in the past and reliving old patterns even if they no longer feel good. With change comes an inevitable and sometimes chaotic adjustment period. As we try to understand where the path is leading us, as I was completing my psychology degree, I knew that being a therapist wasn't exactly my dream career. But I invested so much time and money getting through school that even though I was feeling bored and listless, I was determined to make things work. I didn't realize it then, but the fact that I had to force myself to continue to my drama therapy practice was the first clue that this line of work was not for me. Because I was not willing to acknowledge my discomfort, the universe stepped into it to make it perfectly clear. In the span of 1 month, the angry husband of one of my patients stalked me. A fistfight broke out during the family therapy session, and I received a court subpoena for my practice notes. Still reeling from all of this, the last nail in the coffin was my supervisor, who was also a close friend, confessed that she was sleeping with a patient. I had no choice but to report her breach of ethics to the head of the department, and she lost her job. Not long after this, I left the therapy field with no idea what I would do next. I was immediately offered an opportunity to do pro bono team building and change management sessions for a corporate consulting firm. I quickly realized how I would use my drama therapy training to create a new career. I found I was really good at facilitating large groups of employees who were angry about layoffs or restructuring in their workplace. I drew on my training to calm and focus groups that were being faced with immense changes. I found drama everywhere in these settings, to put it mildly. Helping people role play new behaviors or coming up with creative interactive experiences for corporate groups was a natural next step for me. Looking back, I could never have predicted that my dissatisfaction with conventional therapy work would lead me to where I am today, fully engaged in a unique career where I apply all my skills every day. In a thin little book entitled Guiding Yourself into a Spiritual Reality, authors Peggy Dillon and Tolly Birkin, founders of the modern firewalking movement, talked about fear is an integral part of the unknown that comes through wedded to adventurous territory. Fear, they write, is false evidence appearing real, simply a construct of the mind. Do you want to start reading here?
They take the experience of successful firewalking and break it into small steps to show how you can overcome fear and live your life more fully. At the time I read this, it felt like my fingers were on one cliff edge and my toes on another, and I was trying to find the courage to let go and leap. The book gave me some much needed distance and perspective. I began to recognize that many of my fears were assumptions about what I was capable of or what I would find. I learned that all change requires some element of risk, but when you start to break it down, those fearful assumptions come from that part of your brain that wants to keep you protected and safe. What the brain doesn't have stored in its long-term memory, it creates a story about. Often that story is not based in reality, but is a cobbling together of assumptions that produce unwarranted anxiety. Our culture bombards us with fear stories. The nightly news, advertisements, many religions, and the mindset of people around you all reflect the belief that the world is a dangerous place. Fear is only a construct of the mind, but when you give it power, it becomes real. How can you navigate big changes and unknown outcomes and still get beyond your fears? The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain engaged in decision making, actually expands when you adopt a positive frame of mind, opening you to more creativity and flexibility in developing solutions. Fear constrains your ability to do this, and the long term effects of negativity actually result in a much narrower view of the problem and range of solutions. A technique I use to deal with fear is to bring myself into a state of mindfulness, being fully present to the experiences that is eliciting fear. When fear paralyzes my ability to think clearly, a shift in awareness will free me to see other perspectives. I stop what I am doing, put my feet on the ground, and take a few slow, deep breaths. Recently, while dining out, I got into a conversation with our young waitress. She had recently had her first baby and was still reeling from the resulting life changes. Caring for that baby at all hours of the day had left her sleep deprived. At times, she felt completely overwhelmed and scared. She realized she was totally responsible for this tiny new life, and she feared she was not up to the task. She confided in me that her mother's advice completely transformed her attitude. Always remember she's just a baby and crying is the only way she knows how to communicate. You aren't doing anything wrong. After that, whenever the baby cried, she would remind herself it wasn't an emergency. The young woman had become mindful in the present moment. As a result, she was able to care for and nurture her child in the face of her inexperience. To manage your own fear, calm down and find the truth about the situation. Here are some conventionally held beliefs. Many new businesses fail. This may not be the best time to launch a new venture. It is harder to find a partner as you get older. Yet, stories abound of people who have made new businesses work or succeeded in a down economy or found partners with which to share the final chapters of their life. There are very likely people who have accomplished all three. Whatever your bold steps and desired new reality are, you can face fear and move forward. I witnessed a profound example of this while consulting big financial institution during the stock market downturn in the late 1990s. The company had been on a hiring spree, adding 1,000 employees to the payroll shortly before the market bubble burst. I was brought in to help the human resources team as they orchestrated a major staff reduction. They assembled all the employees who were being laid off in one room and put those who were to stay in another. Then they told all the employees who were losing their jobs to clean out their desks and leave as quickly and quietly as they could. They were not able to say goodbye to anyone, and they had no opportunity for closure. Then they told the remaining employees what had happened. The reaction was anger toward the leadership of the company and the way the layoffs had been handled. At this point, I was brought in to design a listening section between management and the angry employees. The aim was to give them a chance to air their feelings and rebuild the group so they could move forward to revive the company. When I began, the management team said they wished they could go back in time and change the decisions that got them in this fix. In particular, the company vice president regretted that the increased staff had stretched the company finances too thin once the stock market tanked. However, going back in time was not an option, and the company was a mess. We held a number of sessions where the employees were able to air their grievances. As a rule, managers dread such meetings and avoid them if at all possible, or pass the buck about who is responsible. In this case, something amazing happened. The vice president responsible for the rapid hiring voluntarily attended every session where she not only answered questions but owned her decision. Publicly, she told them, "I am responsible for this terrible mistake. I hired people too quickly. I don't expect to be forgiven for what has happened, and I share your sadness at losing many fine colleagues and friends. I want you to be mad at me, not the company." At each session, I watched her step right into the fire to speak her truth. She certainly must have had trepidation, yet she did it anyway. There was no attempt to downplay what had happened and the impact it had on all concerned. Her leadership and courage will stay with me forever because I witnessed how the truth transformed and healed everyone. When you stand in your truth and speak from that place in service to your highest good, fear is banished and change is possible. All right, I'll stop here.
Sorry, Wendy, I muted. Do you want to start the discussion?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to find this session that caught my. I kind of went a few years ago when I was still living with my parents. I was at there was a point where I was going to therapy because I couldn't deal with my father. He was an alcoholic, and I couldn't deal with it. I would overreact to things, and the therapist told me to write down what I was going through. So I was doing that at one point. So that kind of hit home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Well, even with my brother-in-law, I have to pay attention to how I react, not overreact, and that can be a little hard because, with my that's totally the opposite. Who's, one thinks I should be able to do everything, and the other thinks I can't do anything because I'm in a wheelchair. Because I look so much younger than I am, thinks I'm a babe, thinks I need to be treated like a little kid.
Your babysitter, your
my age.
Your age. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. She thinks I need to be treated like to her. I look like a little kid because I'm small. I'm only 4'8", so that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
But it's what am I supposed to? So I'm caught twixt in between.
Right. How do you feel? Like you can do some things, you can't do others?
Yeah. I'm not Superwoman, let's say, but on the other hand, I'm not helpless either. Somewhere in the middle. And I know what I can and can't do, and nobody else knows that. Because I just feel unless people are around me 24/7, and this goes for anybody who's quote unquote disabled. Unless you're with them 24/7, how do you really know what they can and cannot do?
Right. And even then, you're changing all the time. So
yeah.
You might be able to do something tomorrow you can't do today.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think you need to have known them a really long time to really know what they can or can't do.
Right.
All right, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they were all really good points, selective sharing, protect your dream, mitigate negativity. There's a lot of research now that we are 3 times more likely to think negative things than think positive things. And that's because that historically or prehistorically, what we need to do to survive, we always need to be aware of what, a tiger could jump at us or something. But in this world, mitigating negativity is really important because we can succumb to negativity and then nothing ever gets done. And then working through the resentment, I think that writing on paper and sharing it with a friend or two is really important. So last week, two incidents happened that really upset me. One was I'm working on a project to help musicians to be prosperous, and it's a big project. We aim to make it profitable for everybody. And one of the partners, it's actually my mentor, got really angry and said that this was misleading going on. And not only that, later, and I thought he meant the other person. As it turned out, he meant I was misleading. So we had several discussions, and I'm actually still working it through. And then something else happened where I have kind of like a mastermind meeting group where I was supporting someone that session. And this group, this woman the way the session run always tends to be a little repressive for me, because the leader of the group, and I have kind of like a personal chemistry or personality difficulty. So I did write it up, and I am going to share with a couple of friends. But it was interesting that she mentioned drawing it. So I think those were really good ideas. Finally, getting through the fear, I think they're all really, really good points. So this book is dynamite. I hope once we finish reading it, I'll continue to refer to it and use it.
All right.
Yeah, so that's my point. So anything else?
There was something else I just thought of.
Oh, great.
Oh, let's just wait. Sometimes my aide will talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old. It's almost like she's manipulative. One minute she treats me like an adult, and next minute she'll treat me like a little baby. And which end is up here? Like I don't know which end is up. I just wonder how is she going to be when she comes back, because now she's going to be away, and how is she going to react towards me when she gets back? And is she going to forget that I've been on my own all this time and managed just fine? But even some of these other aides that I've had over the years have been they get overprotective. They're so afraid something bad's going to happen. Like that one will start push. And this is how my last wheelchair broke. The one thought I needed to be pushed when I didn't. Some of them, they can't understand that if I needed to be pushed, I wouldn't have been able to push myself to the door to let them in. They don't think about that. It's like, how do you think I got to the door to let you in? And they don't think that way. They just think that I can't push myself. And also, I wouldn't be in this kind of a chair if I couldn't push myself. They have different kind of wheelchairs for people who can't push themselves. They don't understand that.
I'm going to stop the broadcast, okay?
That's it.
I want to